this Shen ultimate, so I think that's a champion that needs to be respected, but not necessarily with a ban. Speaking of respect bans, finally Coco gets the respect he deserves. The things he does on Azir, just on a different level to any of the other Azir players, and that's including someone like Faker.
Yeah, his Azir, I think, is the best in the world, frankly. He has been absolutely amazing on that champion, but we're not going to see it, and Mickey is not going to be picking the TF early. Maybe he wants to save that as a possible red side last pick, so Coco's going to be having to play something a little bit different here tonight. Now, whether that's going to be Victor, of course, he does have the Jace, and CJ as a team does like to run poke compositions.
I mean, that's really the only time when they start to look vulnerable, though. The Jace in particular, okay, we can't take too much from a game which had so many subs, but Jace hasn't really been the way forward. We suspected it, you know, we saw the Jace rework and everyone was like, alright, CJ Entus really going to be embracing that. Maybe today we'll finally see the debut of a winning Jace comp, but one thing we can guarantee, Victor available, Victor taken at first pick.
Okay, but this of course leaves up that Runeglaive Ezreal. We are still on 5.13, and the Braum, an easy pickup for CJ and definitely a priority for them, so could see the Shen taken here as well, depending on how confident Shy is in blind picking it. Ixu, a player that really prefers to go for Hecarim or Maokai. Most of his games have been on one of those two champions, and they're going to take the Kog'Maw.
The Kog'Maw really high up on the priorities. Slipped a bit in terms of overall win rate, but still top 5, still a very fearsome AD carry. You know, some semblance of flex pick in terms of the poke AP Kog mid, but just not seeing that in recent match weeks. Anarchy, where will they go with the draft? Because honestly, it's when we see Lyra on champions like Lee Sin, as you mentioned, going for that, 12-month-old build that always used to be the warrior enchant, or whatever the enchant was at that time, into the Hex Drinker, into Sidestone, but just the early combat was the popularity. But no, sticking with the meta, Rek'Sai and Sivir are your second round picks.
Yep, so not too much surprising from Anarchy right here. They're not playing one of those compositions or a mid laner that they have been strong with. It does feel that if Mickey can't kill the carries by himself, that Anarchy has a very hard time winning. And that Ezreal and the Gragas could very well come through right now. They would set themselves up with a really nice pick composition. Great synergy with Braum for triggering that passive. And then also they can isolate a target with the Gragas. So nice comp, honestly, so far. Go with the Cassiopeia, something a little bit more safe. Still works very well with Gragas, though, in that isolation.
It works very well with Kog'Maw as well, and of course just hang in the back line and peel, so we're probably not going to see the mid lane pickup in this round. Runeglaive Ezreal does loom as a popular pick. Of course, yesterday we saw a lot of Victor versus Ezreal. Feels like the matchup can go two ways, but honestly, it's on the jungle pressure that really decides that lane. Because of course you can wave clear as the Victor and leave lane if you have jungle pressure, if you have someone warding for you, but if you just give Ezreal a free lane, late game Ezreal is pretty damn strong.
Hard to argue that. Hard to argue that right now. We've been teasing it, but are they going to go for it in the end? Mid lane just left alone for the time being. Interestingly, it's been a draft without a Maokai so far. Now, obviously, CJ has been a team that's been very competent in using the Shen. They do use the double globals quite nicely. Shy is hyper aware in that top lane of when he has to use the Stand United, when he has to go in and try and make some of these plays.
Ixu's going to be back on the Hecarim. Now, this has probably been his most played. It's one of his better champions, specifically towards the start of the season, but I know you and I are both a little bit unconvinced about Hecarim just on patch 5.13, just after all the incidental changes. If you just add them together, you know, the home guard nerf towards the E, the mana cost for the laning phase, the fact that Cinderhulk means that you can't just exit lane as a no-escape champion and pick up farm, it feels like the reliability of Hecarim's gone down, and now you just kind of rush Trinity Force, and if you're already winning, it feels great. You have excellent burst damage from the top, but if you're behind and you're slowly building Trinity Force, we're talking about, what, 30 minutes until you're relevant in team fights? That's a lot to bite off just for a top lane.
And against the composition that CJ is running too, you're just not going to have the same effect. There's a Shen who's going to be shielding the backline, so you can't even really rely on the big Trinity Force burst before you get taunted and killed by a Runeglaive Ezreal and a Kog'Maw, which is what it will be in the end. So a lot of maneuverability for CJ Entus with that Ezreal in the back line, and they have an immense amount of protection. I mean, the Braum going to be able to block a lot of these skill shots coming in from Anarchy. I think this is a really nice comp for CJ Entus, and one thing we can say about CJ is that they've been drafting really well recently. Really well.
They've stepped up on it massively, I think.
Yeah, and even comps where they can run the Echo effectively, which is still a great jungler. Now, Echo is falling down the jungle ranks a little bit because simply we're seeing fewer jungle bans, honestly, is a big, big reason because of that. This game, for instance, no jungle...
CJ versus Anarchy Game 1. As I was saying, having the Maokai here would give them just pressure in all three lanes early, and you know, if Lyra and Snowflower are able to play well around that, they could really do a lot of damage to the turrets before CJ was really able to ramp up into a powerful late game, but the Hecarim doesn't really provide that.
Hecarim was
the top side.
Hecarim was the answer to a lot of questions from the top lane in the spring season. You know, it was very good against Juggernaut, he was very good against the back line. It was so reliable, it felt, at really just hitting that 30-35 minute power spike, specifically with Cinderhawk, and taking over games. But now I kind of really try to think of questions where Hecarim is the answer to a team comp, and on one level you're like, okay, backline threat, but just because he's so much less reliable, specifically in the laning phase, it feels like Maokai is just the jack of all trades, and the fact that he went through picks and bans, mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, gotta agree with you there. I understand where CJ's coming from because they are a very Shen-focused team and they play with that champion so well, but to give it up, especially since we know Ixu has his own priority on that pick, he does play it quite a lot himself. It does raise many questions indeed. So deep warding mission there from CJ into the top side. They will just fall back. Looks like they have a bit of a lane swap coming through. A bit strange since normally you would want that Kog'Maw up against the Sivir, but not going to happen in this particular game.
Will we see the CJ Entus, that of course unsettled SKT streak? They are the 1-21-1 Monte Cristo. They are the only team to have defeated SKT in a best of 3 in 160 days. But they're a team that, you know, 2-1 against Spenu, 2-1 against SKT within, what, a week? This is the sort of team that can flip-flop and oscillate between greatness and a bit of abject failure.
Yeah, that's the big question. They've shown themselves to be a little bit meta-dependent in the past. And Bad Life coming in for a level 1 gank, actually. Here he comes. There's the Ghost immediately popped. Are they going to get some more auto attacks down? No, just backing off. Snowflower reading the situation and coming in. Both supports on a little bit of a jungle mission right there to see if they can disrupt the opponent's jungling. Should it be taking place on the weak side, but Bad Life gets the first move, and those little maneuvers like that do make a big difference in Runeglaive Ezreal's ability to get rolling in the early game.
If you don't have Ghost up, there's just one less summoner, one less variable that can get those early first bloods, and it feels like if Coco can keep up in CS, we already mentioned, surprisingly free to do damage in the late game compared to, say, Maokai lockdown comps or anti-Maokai lockdown comps that we often see comped together to shut down this Ezreal. And the fact that they had the flexibility, CJ Entus to last pick Runeglaive Ezreal on perhaps the last patch where it's a relevant pick. We talked about how good a draft it is from CJ, and just you have to really raise questions on the same coins against Anarchy's draft.
Yep. Apparently they feel very confident in doing this, but it does take a lot of coordination to shut down the Runeglaive Ezreal with a Victor. I think it's a great pick against Runeglaive Ez, but it takes so much vision. Now, we do see some wards coming down already on the Anarchy side. You see that line across the river, and they're starting to be able to push up, so this is a good sign for Anarchy. Starting to chip that tower down. It's so important. Snowflower in the top side to make sure that Ixu can get some farm and hit his Trinity Force as soon as possible.
So let's explain to the viewers, though, because if you think about it, Victor doesn't have immediate kill pressure on Ezreal. And of course, the first school of thought was we got to pick the Zed to try and kill him in lane. Why is Victor the champion, or why do Victor comps actually have a hope at shutting down this Runeglaive Ezreal if there's not immediate lane kill pressure?
Well, because you can clear the wave super easily, push it up to the tower, and then you can start attacking their junglers or getting free autos down onto the turret. And why is Shy here? There's a flash taunt. It is going to miss. But a nice attempt there from Shy, and this is how you counteract it, is that when it comes to pressure, you have to be so careful. And Shy being very tricky coming out of the 1v1 in the bottom lane to attempt that gank. So now both summoners blown, and when you're Victor, you start to get nervous now if you can't push up. So they're doing a good job of shutting this down.
And if you actually look at the statistics between these two mid laners, both of them put out 32.6% of their team's overall damage. These are two, I guess, most damaging mid laners in the whole of Champions. And it's no surprise with Mickey, but it's actually a surprise that the first team to rotate around their mid laner wasn't Anarchy for once. It's actually CJ Entus. Maybe it's because the matchup needs a little bit of help early, but honestly, Mickey and Kogo, these are two names that are very likely to stack on MVP points if their teams are going to be able to pick up wins today.
Yes, absolutely. Coco, too, is just having a hell of a season. I mean, he's number 1 in kills in this league at 170, and he's number 5 in kill contribution at over 75%. So he's not only just finishing off a lot of these kills, he is such a huge part of the way his team plays League of Legends. If Coco has a bad game, then CJ has a hard time winning. Fortunately, while we can say the same thing about Mickey, Coco tends to have more good games and a better supporting staff surrounding him to ensure that he does.
And look, Coco, I think, is definitely set up to succeed, whether you're just looking at the first 5 minutes of this game where 2 ganks blown both in the defensive summoners of Mickey. Nice little hook coming through. But it's 4th versus 8th. It's a team, one of the oldest organizations in competitive esports and specifically competitive League of Legends, and a very new team that's only recently picked up support stuff. So otherwise, the statistics very similar between Mickey and Coco.
Yeah. Indeed. Well, Ambition here having a little bit of a tough time getting into the river right now between Ixu and Lyra. And those wards coming in nice and deep. And so Mickey's still not going to be too worried right now about his prospects in this laning phase. Anarchy trying to keep up that vision control, but Coco actually ahead in CS right now, already has the Rangers Trailblazer, found a time to recall and buy that. So he's going to be very comfortable here.
Given this seesaw mid lane matchup, it really does feel like Lyra and Snowflower versus Ambition and Mad Life, and being able to create pressure, because those Victor lanes, specifically the ones where we see Faker take down the enemy outer turret against a low wave clear champion, which of course you have to say is this Runeglaive Ezreal, especially early in the game without blue buff and some cooldown reduction for that ultimate. If that happens, then it's Mickey's able to instant clear with his first Hex Core upgrade and roam around. That's what Anarchy need to do to set up the win, and that's why it's so crucial that it's all been CJ pressure in the first 7 minutes.
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting situation for Mickey. He doesn't even really have any tower damage, as we can see. So he's been able to put the poke onto Coco, but not actually translate it into anything else. Most they've done really is just continue to get deep wards in, as there's no way that Coco can respond when the wave is pushed up to his turret like this.
Very interesting to see when Space switches down back to the bottom lane. Actually has to use heal. We're seeing the gank come that forces out the ultimate. Ixu will get away. He's low, has some sustain. Will that actually lead to the swap back as Mad Life's low himself?
Yeah, they have TP still, though. This could be dangerous. Snowflower going to take a lot of damage from the turret. Is Shy going to come back down to the bottom side? Looks like the answer is no. They're just going to let Mad Life not die until the flash comes through. Mad Life, is he going to go down? Yes, he does eventually. Songyun pursuing that kill through the turret. And now they're going to TP into top to get a very large minion wave. So interesting choice there from Shy. He was actually proxying the wave at the top side while that happened.
So let's try and work out what happened through all of this, because remember, Stan United was used right at the start of that fight. Shy has the teleport advantage. Ixu teleports back up to top. They pick up the first blood, but man, Mad Life was almost slippery enough to live despite so much turret diving, so much turret damage. No answering kill though for CJ Entus.
He did get 3 summoners out of them for that dive, and there wasn't an objective taken, so not too bad, all things concerned for CJ. It is a bit of a surprise that we didn't have the teleport down there for Shy. Instead, he just backs off and TP's right back to his lane. There's the taunt coming in onto Ixu. Ixu
have ultimate.
He doesn't, and he just... Oh, there we go, knocking him around a little bit. Ambition doesn't have explosive cask, so he can't follow up.
Does actually answer the pink ward instantly, so no value from that 100 gold purchase, no teleport left for Ixu, and only half health. Now he does have the flask, but it's certainly not going to be the instantaneous regen he needs. But at least Anarchy's playing smart. If they can deny this blue buff, then the wave control will be palpable now that the Hex Core upgrade has been picked up. And it looks like, yep, going to be able to take it away, but maybe didn't need to smite it there, Lyra.
Yeah, maybe they were worried about True Shot Barrage picking it up, but it's like they'll have to go for another blue buff when it arrives after this red buff is taken right now by Lyra. So, Ambition coming through. Ambition already stole their blue, actually, so here he comes. There's a flash body slam, and there's an explosive cast. Mickey gets the flash off, has to use both his summoners, and will now have to go back to base. So Ambition actually took enemy blue, so neither mid lane are going to get a blue buff right now.
Still, I think it's a much bigger factor for the Ezreal than the Victor, who, you know, on the cooldown of about 6-7 seconds. From level 7 onwards, you get that Hex Core upgrade, you instantly clear the backline waves. You force Coco to farm under turret. Now, you don't have the turret down, so you can't then go for the leisurely walk into bottom or top, but still, you do have that instant wave clear advantage compared to Ezreal.
You certainly do. So, taking a look at this now, we do have some wards being put down in the bottom river. Mickey did not actually recall after getting chunked. Had a couple of biscuits on him to heal himself up, but that's going to be a completed Runeglaive now for Coco. And he's not going to lose much in the mid lane either. Bad Life clears out a pink ward in the bottom river, and now the looks like no one's going to try and make a play for the dragon just yet, in spite of the fact that the mid and bot lane are not there for Anarchy.
Surprising amount of sweeping lenses being picked up so far by CJ Entus. They're not going to focus on the warding tomes that a team like Jin Air would pick up in what feels like at least a quasi-poke comp in the mid game. Now, of course, they always have the flexibility to change when they upgrade, but for now, just denying the vision is in the bot lane. Avarice Blade is what we feel like is the big thing that was able to picked up with the first blood gold earlier in the game.
That is a nice early buy to start snowballing some sort of gold advantage. Ixu has full vision of the Gragas, and this is great play. Go for this proxy farm and get the turret damage down. Punish CJ's low early wave clear while you can. Not going to be committing too hard for that. Ixu does have some issues dueling right now. I mean, he just has Merc Treads and a Home Guard enchant.
Picking for team fights and not for lane. Maybe that will be important when we're talking about the next dragon. It's about 10-15 seconds till his teleport is up. We'll need to make a play to justify 1,500 gold for very low laning statistics.
Not sticking around in Fountain either, so just zipping back up into top with those Home Guard boosts to try and pick up the farm. So no plan to be made right now. Now they lost most of their wards directly around that dragon. See if Snowflower can get back in there, find an angle, but CJ playing this bottom side of the map really hard right now.
They're definitely powering up. They're looking for certain item timings, the Trinity Force for space, and then just a couple of AP items to complement the Runeglaive. For Coco, doesn't take any poke. The big issue for CJ is that because they'll function effectively as a poke comp with the Shy split push towards the mid game, you have to respect the fact that the turret damage is actually very high from Anarchy. So even though they'll reach a point where it feels like team fights will be in their purview, you get cute with the poke. Sivir and Hecarim do excellent turret damage, and there is the potential still in the late game for Anarchy to get through. Again, accounting for Coco and Ezreal is a big thing to take into consideration, but if they can do it, and even once, they'll be able to take a lot of structures.
Okay, so a little tussle right here. Lyra actually getting hit early, has to flash out instead of using that tunnel. Now the damage really starting to pile on. Snowflower there, uses the box. Ambition forward, forces the flash. And that is going to be a very one skirmish. Lyra getting close. Coco has no mana to really finish off this fight. Just going to use his smite right there on the Scuttle Crab.
Crucially, Lyra doesn't have the Void Rush, so they'd go for Dragons. Ixu might be soloed by Shy in the top lane.
The sword! After the ultimate takes it down. Shy with the least ninja-like move available. Chucking a sword.
The world's longest range Vorpal blade, about a 700 range Vorpal Double Blade casually picks up the kill. Wouldn't have overkilled by much, not high base damage, but CJ, understanding they could pick up the dragon because Void Rush is down and Lyra was chunked out, even getting the bonus up top and suddenly swinging towards the bakers of the street.
Well, I mean, just the Shen against the Hecarim, because any matchup that Shen could early build the Sunfire Cape is just excellent for Shen. Uh-oh, Space getting a little frisky in the bottom side. Now the TP going to come in, but Shy is already there with his ultimate. Ixu's there, but how much can they do? Space out of mana right now. Ixu get onto the Space. They are going to get that kill. Mad Life getting low, but Shy still there, ticking away. Ambition coming up, and will he get another sword kill? Oh, that was almost great. Ambition is so low. What is he doing there? He was very low out of the jungle, and he could have flashed that hook too.
Mickey and Lyra both in vision. Coco's going to be very slippery. It's not going to be any answering kill. Can't even clear out the pink ward. Nice defense from Coco. Ambition had the ultimate. He had a lot of options to just die.
Oh. Q misses. No true shot barrage. Got 8 seconds. How fast can he get it? 3, 2, 1. He get the kill. Lyra's there, going to just heal up and swing and a miss. No Mickey in that brush.
Not quite Ezreal, not quite fake as Ezreal when it comes to being on point with those skill shots, but now with Runeglaive Ezreal, it's just even that much more opportunity. Just chuck them out, hope for the best.
Especially with that blue buff, you get it. Get your ultimate up back so frequently.
Just get cooldown reduction from the Runeglaive and just itemize it a little bit more naturally. Saw Dade on the weekend go for the Athene's Unholy Grail Runeglaive Ezreal. Don't know about that one. But we're going to watch this skirmish again. A lot of free damage taken from space, and even the Shen ultimate wasn't enough.
Yeah, you see the True Shot Barrage too, going for that blue buff rather than actually contributing to this skirmish at the bottom side. And now, of course, Mad Light going to back off. The real question mark here is, why is Ambition coming in when he is so low?
As his ultimate at this point. No, he didn't actually have it. Came off cooldown at the last second. That's why it looked so awkward and late. But nice hook from Snowflower. We had to mention Thresh is this guy's key pick. And look,
that was actually
3 out of 3 kill participation.
If I was Ambition, I wouldn't have thought that hook was going to hit me either. I would have thought it was going to hit Shy, but he caught the outside of the Gragas hitbox right there. So I can understand why he didn't flash.
Don't want to catch any of Gragas' celebratory skill shots, or Threshes for that matter. The death sentence very aptly named as Mickey. Look, he's got the CS disadvantage in mid, which is a bit awkward given the matchup.
You know, Mickey plays Victor, but Mickey is not really a Victor player. I mean, this guy is an assassin player in the wrong meta, really. And we can see that priority, first picking the Victor, but you have to be able to deliver on that champion. And what this means is you have to get that tower early in the matchup like this one. And that takes the coordination of your entire team. And coordination has not been Anarchy's strong suit as a more rookie team.
And I would almost say, in that regard, it's not really his Victor play, it's Anarchy's play around the Victor pick just doesn't really suit themselves to, as you mentioned, the pressure game around mid. It's been handily won by the likes of Shy and Mad Life when it comes to pressure on Mickey. And he's behind in CS, behind in even turret damage, which is super awkward, as you mentioned, given the fact that Runeglaive Ezreal is getting basically a free lane.
Yeah, absolutely is. And you wouldn't expect, especially that gank from Shy in the lane swap was quite unusual and not something that many teams will do. Now, you don't know that there's an Ambition here. They do see him right now, and there you go. There's the stun, and that's going to be the problem as Snowflower just gets yanked around and goes down instantly. And Braum and Kog'Maw so good together. Lyra trying to get the knockup. Mad Life will fall. So nice return gank right there. Shy has the stand united. He's not going to use it. Interestingly, he could have gotten interrupted there by a Hecarim ultimate. Wasn't really set up. Chaos Storm comes down. So poor trade for CJ in the end. Songyun eats a combo, but it's not enough. And Shy still opting not to come into the bottom lane.
This hasn't been that uncommon a result though, Monte Cristo. Kill trades in the early game from the really smart skirmishing Anarchy lineup, but not turning it into any objectives. In fact, losing objectives. That's the awkward factor, as you mentioned, against a physical damage champion, getting to itemize so naturally into Sunfire. Getting a solo kill and solo taking down a turret bodes very poorly for the extended laning phase between the Hecarim and the Shy. Because remember, if Shen ever hits that taunt, reduced physical damage comes through from the taunt, and then of course just the armor stacking means that if he's able to unseat Hecarim even towards the late game, big strategic problems for Anarchy.
Absolutely. Shy deciding not to match the damage of Ixu, though, looks like going for Randuin's Omen as his next item, one would assume, and he does have plenty of damage on his team, so I suppose that having a Trinity Force here and being a backline threat himself isn't so much of a priority.
Honestly, not that bad for the split push as well. Of course, Trinity Force procs would be ideal, but given the fact that one of the target buffs was to have that passive up more often, it scales off maximum health. You have good turret damage. We're seeing the trading on to Lyra. Looks like it's going to be fine. This is going to be a big true shot barrage, but nice dodge.
Ambition also decides not to use his explosive cast there. He knew Tunnel was down and that Flash was up. Probably could have gotten a flash out of Lyra, but he will save it for a possible engagement here at the blue buff. Coco just going to pop over the wall, though, with the Arcane Shift to dodge Snowflower's hook and secure the blue buff. Mad Life will just simply pull the minions out of the lane.
Interesting to see that still the Luden's Echo as the next pickup. Doesn't proc on the Q anymore, so it's going to be big for the ultimate, though, which will be chunking people out left, right, and center.
Now, W still has enough range that you can reliably proc the Ludens, so definitely not the end of the world and an extremely necessary change, because that was, I mean, Runeglaive Ezreal's still broken, but that was even more broken. Dragon's live again. First one was taken by
Snowfire goes
CJ.
for a walk.
Okay, there we go. Shenhold coming through. They want Snowflower. He drops the box, but Shy's already there. Goodbye, Snowflower. Eats an Essence Flux, and he will go down. And now, priority for this Dragon easily going over to CJ Entus. They can't even really punish this by taking a top tower. Shy has the opportunity just to go ahead and TP back into top lane whenever he wants to.
They don't even lose pressure in mid lane, Monte Cristo. Coco can just push up, still winning that push battle against Victor. Everything going the way of CJ Entus, barring those small skirmishes that Anarchy have just not translated into map advantages.
Well, they were going to have that all-in potential in the early game. You look at the Sivir and the Thresh against the Kog'Maw, and as long as you can get on top of the Cog, he is going to be a little bit weak, so Anarchy has executed that well, but they simply do not have enough right now. They don't have enough of a lead. It has actually dwindled about 2,000 gold now down to absolutely nothing.
This game was going to be decided in the solo lanes, it feels like. Just, you look down Sungin, 3-0-2. He's doing very well. Even has the investment banker Avarice Blade. So his gold lead over space is going to be very strong. We just talked about the fact that Anarchy needed to control Coco. Nope, hasn't happened. 31 CS advantage and equal amount of kills. And in the top lane, the advantage also gone to Shy. The split pushing and the strength of these solo laners, I think, will just count so much more than a Kog'Maw in the late game. Look, he'll get those items eventually.
Yeah, he will. And in terms of items that Shen is going to have, because he's in a lane versus the Hecarim, he can build efficiently also against a Sivir that's ahead. More armor, that's all he's got to do. Armor and HP, doesn't really have to worry quite so much about Vicky yet. That can take a bit of a backseat, particularly since Ambition already has the Aegis. And Shen got those buffs. He now has magic resist per level, so he's doing better on that front too.
Just be cute here, Shy, of course. Very maneuverable is the ninja, drawing up some AP damage, but I mean, Mickey can't do that. He doesn't have anywhere near the same global presence. 2 globals, just an embarrassment for Shy as his ultimate's now available again. Space is going to push down bottom. I just don't know what Anarchy can do. They need a big play with the Sivir. They need to force something, because they've been forcing kills, but nothing more.
Nope, and they haven't gotten any dragons to show for it either. Some misplays on the map meant that they couldn't even contest. Snowflower going it alone in a dangerous situation and being easily caught out by CJ.
Here pushing. Maybe they'll finally take out this turret down. Turret. It's going to be a turret trade at best with 3 members, and CJ's not stopping pushing it, but
Yeah, they are not. They keep on rolling forward. Coco just wants to farm up the jungle while he can. Shy just ready and waiting for the next minion wave. And yep, this could be 2 turrets for 1 here. It's going to be 1.5 as Kog'Maw just backs off. They don't have enough wards in the mid side to really justify continuing pushing.
although the item timings are good from Anarchy, just waiting for it to actually pay off into something. Civ is very strong, but they haven't been able to opt into any dragon fights, which is where Civ's strength would have been amplified. And Shy, it almost feels like Hecarim has to leave this lane because Trinity Force Merc Treads isn't going to help you against just the consistent sustained damage from Shy.
It's gonna be a bit tough, I gotta say. Well, at least the Trinity Force is there. I suppose that's the only thing you can do. But like you said, the damage from Shy still going to be very competitive in that regard.
Trinity Force does damage in team fights they're not getting, and it's great for split pushing, but he can't split push against Shy, so it's nice, but again, we're talking about another at least completed health and defensive item like a Randuin's before. He's even going to be able to tussle up with a Shen, which this lane matchup should be pretty good for Hecarim early, and it wasn't, of course. It went very poorly, got solo killed. Doesn't get any better when you have to itemize purely for burst damage, and honestly, he's itemized for basically everything except laning stats against the Hecarim, against the Shen.
Yeah, rough time, but we talked about that, Hecarim. This is the reason why we are not too enthusiastic about this champion. In the current meta, it just is too dependent on outside factors in the game, and hello, 50% of your HP and your entire minion wave.
It wasn't even a Luden's proc for the minion wave, just died instantly to the lower damage. Of course, it takes, I believe, 15% less damage for everything it collides with. Not a big factor when it does just so much damn damage.
Look at Coco's farm. He's at 325 minutes into this game. I mean, we don't usually see stat lines like that, but he's been taking so much out of the jungle and has barely missed any CS. Ixu in a big world of hurt, but he is going to get out. Snowflower there with the lantern just in case. But that is an extraordinary amount of farm for this point in the game.
Lane pressure is what Anarchy picked for. Actually, teleports coming through with the home guards, forces a flash, but will that be enough? Looks like Space has some friendly people to walk to and it'll be fine, but they picked for lane pressure. Monte Cristo, Victor can wave clear for days through Coco's Ezreal. Hecarim should be able to dirty farm like we saw and just really pressure the single target Shen. Neither of those things happened, and awkwardly it was only Sivir that got any sort of advantage in the early game, and it's given Coco and Runeglaive Ezreal and probably CJ Entus a free win.
And that lack of pressure, when we talk about it, it wasn't for a lack of warding. Anarchy actually did do a good job of warding up the enemy jungle early, but they were afraid to push as hard as they needed to. They knew Gragas was at bottom, yet we still saw Ixu a little bit gun-shy about farming behind the enemy turret or pushing on increased amounts of pressure. And that has sort of been the story, is that they haven't been able to take that information and turn it into a more valuable advantage. So a lot of those wards, or not really.
And you feel like the jungle bans certainly did, the mid lane bans, sorry, by CJ Entus really have done a trick, because you think back to the start of the season, of course, first match of the season, Naj and Anarchy bursts onto the scene, this Mickey, this upstart player, excellent, the Assassins, beating the Naj and the Empire team, which once again we had a lot of hopes for at the start of the season. You might have thought, okay, the one thing you can say for Anarchy is they try and make things happen. They're good with the turret dives, they don't try and play the long game, they'll try and make things happen. They picked a comp that needed to make things happen, but now, right towards the end of the season, they've been a bit gun-shy, And CJ Entus just happily farming, knowing that just like against SKT in Game 3, they've got this in the late game.
Yeah, they have it, and they have the Dragon stacks, which is a difference between that SKT game. Flash forward, there's the hook. Mickey's going to drop the Chaos Storm. Mad Life very low, but he's not doing enough damage, really. Disengage with that explosive cast. They fall back to their blue buff. Still want to contest this. They don't have a couple of ults right now. Lyra will get jumped on. There is no backup for Lyra. There's a tunnel and a lantern to exit the scene.
All it results, everyone backs away. They get the mid lane turret, but Mickey's nowhere to be found. He's just pushing bottom lane. What are they farming up for? I can't name one single item pickup for Anarchy that will really change this game, because it's things like this Shen getting free split push time that items don't give you answers for.
No, they do not. See, Ixu is slowly doing damage to the Shen, but not enough and not fast enough, that is for sure. So CJ now advancing into the mid lane. They're trying to get this turret for a turret, and they will answer tier 1 for tier 1 in the mid lane, but they get that Dragon too, and they draw out some very valuable summoners.
Let's talk about a different game with the same comps. So let's talk about a game where Anarchy were able to pull off that lane pressure. My goodness, already the True Shot Barrage doing so much damage. But in a different game, you get the pressure on Kobe, you take his turret early, you deny him blue buff. It's a totally different ball game. That's what Anarchy picked to do. That's what we hope to see. It's what they've shown they can do. Lyra and Mickey have some excellent jungle mid lane synergy, but that just sounds like a fairy tale, unfortunately, 30 minutes into this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair to Anarchy, they did deny the blue buff, but you also have to get the blue buff onto the victor. So they had half of that plan executed, but not the entire thing.
And awkwardly, they denied that first blue buff and then actually had their the next one stolen away from the jungle pressure of Ambition and Coco. So never created the lopsided environment they needed, barring the bot lane that we talked about a couple of times. This point doesn't really matter. Kog'Maw's just going to do that late game damage. It's one of the reasons he's such a popular pick, is that he waddles around the backline. No one's really running the Hecarim, so okay, they've got the Hecarim, but I remain to be convinced that a no armor Hecarim can really harangue or harass space in a team fight at all.
Especially when he has a Shen ult on him.
Yep.
Because Shen is not going to be used for engages here.
Level 16, plus 850 health, and Ixu found a lot of people. He's dead.
Found a Bio-Arcane Barrage for the last shot. Ambition making the gank work in the top lane. Now, can they go for a Baron right now? Long death timer onto Ixu. They've got 40 seconds to work with, but they don't have the vision.
It's even worse than that for Anarchy. He doesn't even have teleport to match the Shen split push, so it feels like CJ will stack advantages and look for a mistake from Anarchy.
Here we go. Already on the tier 2 in the bottom side. CJ going to get that one quite easily, and a large minion wave for Shen in bottom to work with. Coco reverses that mid wave right past Anarchy's river, and here we go. Mickey going to start popping out of Coco. There's a Ignite Gravity Field to get some damage down, but it's just not enough. Space walking forward, forcing the flash out of Mickey with the threat of more and more damage.
Yeah, she had 3 concussive blows stacks on him as well, so I mean the stun would have definitely registered death. Braum is so strong in this current meta, and CJ, you wouldn't know it from the kill score, you wouldn't even know it from the gold, but it's one of those games where you feel like they're 10,000 gold ahead, even if only the Dragon stacks really show how far ahead they are.
Passing it over. True Shot Barrage will grab the enemy blue buff. That's yet another blue from Coco. He has had so many this game.
This is the AP Ezreal that you picked for. This is the Runeglaive Ezreal that really is the terror in everyone's dreams. 380 CS in 30 minutes. It should never happen. You should not be pushing CS record numbers on a champion like Runeglaive Ezreal.
This is insane. I mean, he keeps on just jumping further and further ahead when it comes to these CS. He was up by 50 when we normally consider it, of course, at about 25 minutes. Should have only had about 250 then. Now he's up by 70, nearly 80 in 31 minutes. And that standard that we use, 10 CS per minute on average. This is a very impressive performance.
And you know what the most interesting thing about that number is? You know there's some jungle camps there. Of course, he's got the purple smite, so he can take down the raptors very fast. Look at the difference between the jungles. There's actually only 7 CS disadvantage for Ambition over Lyra, despite the fact that Coco's been free to take every camp he can get his arms on.
It's not been too terribly hard for him. Still, only a 2,000 gold difference for CJ Entus. In spite of all of that, Anarchy has done what they can to keep it even, but the truth is in those dragon numbers. The truth is in the scaling of CJ Entus' composition, which will vastly outstrip their opponents unless they can somehow and magically get that victor on top of Coco. And here comes the Baron.
The Baron started. Shen not even showing in lane, ready to ult at any possible moment. Ekram's okay in the spot. He's in the base. He's looking for an option, but keep recalling, no armor whatsoever on this Hecarim. He will explode unless they get the mother of all wombo combos on basically both Ezreal and Kog'Maw.
Yeah, that is... Oh! Wow, a lot of damage onto Mickey. Mickey doesn't look like he has any pots to even deal with this, so another Baron attempt should be incoming from CJ. They have great pink wards right in front of the pit. More poke damage, and there you go. Are they going to get this? Gravity field goes down. Ambition gets stunned, but there's so much backup to proc the concussive blows, and this is really the genius that CJ Entus has been playing with recently, is that they play so well around this Braum. Here comes the ultimate onto Ambition. Shy gets himself right into the back of the pit, and now they're forcing Anarchy to fight at almost no HP. Will they be able to do much of anything at all? And here comes Ixu. Ixu already low, going to miss his onslaught of shadows. Ambition on the side right now, and there we go. Space already low for the back of the pit, but can they actually finish this off or not? Coco did take a lot of damage, and look at this. Anarchy may be coming back, but there's a kill, and here comes the cleanup. Anarchy in a lot of trouble, slow from Winter's Bite, and we have the living artillery keeping on going. Bad Life still at full HP. He's gonna get it. And pops the concussive blows himself, while Shy just TPs back in. He wants Mickey, and there's the taunt.
No other follow-up damage, though, so it won't pick up anything for the Summoner. Ambition, in particular, was guilty of tanking that Baron far damn too long. Just died when he finally peeled away from it. Looks like CJ going to try the Baron again. Remember, they do have another smite, but crucially, Coco doesn't have a charge right now.
Yeah, that was a bit of a split call, especially since Anarchy was already so low on several of their members. Kind of a mistake, but CJ gets away with it just due to how powerful they are at the current time. And now they get the Baron. That gold gap starts to grow ever larger in this game, and lucky for them, they could transition right to a dragon now that Ambition is up.
Just the lack of pressure that Anarchy put on for the first 35 minutes allows CJ to get away with what was a sloppy play. In another game, if you're 5k gold behind, try that as well. One less giant spell on your tank, one less item on everyone. You can't get away with being so sloppy as... Man, those True Shot Barrages do so much damage. The 4th dragon as well. Lyra gets out, but you don't really have much ways to force outside the Hecarim, and you need to start forcing very soon as we look at a replay of an attempted force where Ambition got caught out.
Space really had to flash out of the back of the pit right there just because he was getting so low from the Baron damage.
But we watch the consistent damage coming through. The important thing is Coco and Space are strong enough to scrap. They're still putting out damage from such long range, and Mad Life got in and scrapped himself.
That's right. Flashes forward, just got a box on you to death.
Punched him to death.
Punched him right in the back of the head.
I still worry about the legality of chair shots in the league.
Do you? How about the sucker punch right there?
Sucker punch, the chair. Where's the ref?
They're at the booths, Papa Smithy. They obviously don't care.
I wonder about the integrity of OGN champions sometime, Monte Cristo. Anarchy, they've just never been able to force anything, and now they just can't. There's no way to do it. They don't have the items on their only true initiator in Ixu. Snowflower is on the thresh. He was more about helping Mickey in the laning phase than, say, an Annie that would have been more backline threat. And these True Shot Barrages, so low, but doesn't die.
No, doesn't die. Ixu in the front line, but Space has a huge Shen shield on him right now. There's the PO Chaos Storm, really not going to do anything. Shy now just running interference in the front line. 4 dragons now for CJ Entus, and Lyra so lucky to make it out there with his life. Had a Thresh shield to get him out with some degree of safety, but that's not going to stop CJ Entus from just moving on through this mid lane turret with those Baroned up minions.
Baroned up minions, poke, excellent turret damage with the Triforce, and of course the Rune Glaive that builds out the Sheen, doing great turret damage itself. Just nothing you can do, and honestly, Anarchy, if they don't get the Hector and flank, Ambition might be caught again though.
Ambition not having a great game for being caught outright here, but he is far enough ahead that it's not going to matter. Songyun just eliminated from that fight instantly. They're hunting him down. Not another living artillery is going to hit though, and Anarchy will be chased off. Eventually, Coco getting very dangerously close to another Q. Ixu going to have to body block that, but the W will do the work. And Coco with a double.
There's always another Q, Monte Cristo, when we're talking about Rune Glaive Ezreal especially. And Coco, the Korean sniper, as he's well known as in this part. It's not the Jace that we really maybe first associate that name with, but there's more poke on the Ezreal.
Yeah, just very accurate skill shots too to clean up that fight. And now Shy
Doesn't take damage.
does not take damage from this turret. He's got so much HP. That bar isn't going to move. Songyun spell shields the True Shot barrage, and Coco gets low. But is this going to stop the inhibitor from going down? 2 members of Anarchy still with gray screens, and that's not going to help out. Here we go. Snowflower is going to be the first to fall. Another kill for Coco, who's really starting to stack it up.
Even though he has a Cogmore on his side, the damage dealt to Champions chart is going to be so far lopsided in the advantage of Coco. Speaking of lopsided, 4,000 gold ahead in the mid lane. Casually has 4 items. Gonna build a Banshee Veil. Doesn't feel like he needs any more damage. That's sad. The one-shot potential onto the support might have eluded us a little bit, but
Coco, come on. Sonya's is a defensive item.
he's playing Ezreal of all champions. If you can't trust your Ezreal mechanics, your safety in the back line on Ezreal, Coco, man up.
Come on. You have your flash up. You have your arcane shift.
There's even a Mikhail.
Sonya's is there for you. Sonya's is there for you. Yeah, exactly. There's a Braum with a Mikhail's. No. Don't build the Banshee's Veil.
I didn't think we could levy this at Coco. The highest kills in the league, but just really putting a dampen on what has been a CJ celebration almost. You know, they had that big win in their last series. Anarchy have basically given them a free game to show their ways, show their team fighting and their strength with these high damage comps in the late game, completely unimpeded. And CJ said, thank you very much. And now they haven't finished the game, but is it going to be the 5th Dragon? Is it going to be the next Baron? Is it just going to be steamrolling over the team and winning the game without either of those? CJ, every win condition is in their column, and Anarchy, it's time to start thinking about game 2.
Yeah, definitely is. One thing that CJ has struggled with this game is just Ambition's play. I mean, we look at the rest of his team. Hardly any deaths, a high percentage of kill contribution, but as a jungler sitting at just 50% right now, and by the most deaths on this team, half of the kills. And he's been out of position, he's been caught out, he's been ganking questionably well. Now we saw Trick look, given the small sample size, he's only played 5 games, more stable. And Trick was the jungler that they trusted to carry them to that win versus SKT. Is this the end, really, of Ambition's time in the jungle, at least for a little while? Because he can't keep having games like this against top teams. He will be punished a lot harder.
Shot barrage goes wide this time. It's still going to get the turret if they want to force it, but no, they're backed away. They're letting Shen split push in the top lane. Definitely feels like a sense of inevitability for this base being broken, but I agree with you. You have to wonder how Ambition will come back from once again. This happened multiple times in his career. His position being threatened. It happened when he was in the mid lane. Now it's happening in the jungle.
Okay, I'm not sure what Songyun was doing there, but he is actually going to live. There comes the Glacial Fissure. Mickey now on the front line, had to save his ally, and Mickey will pay for Songyun's positioning there with his own life. Now everybody on the run. Coco with the kill on the Thresh. Coco keeps on moving through. Double kill for him, and that will be the triple for the Runeglaive Ezreal. He'll end the game 7-0 and 4 as Songyun back in the base, and that is going to be the end. CJ picks up the first game in this best of 3. Star of this team. It's not Space. Shy's not going to